Hello and welcome back to another video. It's a while since we've been on Zoom, and today we're doing our National League predictions ahead of the season starting on Saturday. Luckily, the government have come in and put a package together for the National League to actually go ahead. Leave a like on the video. Let me know what you think of our awful predictions, which they usually are looking at the end of the season. And yeah, let's get straight into it. So before we start, of course, I've always got to say, if I put your team bottom of the league, I don't hate you. But it's so bloody hard to predict the National League, especially at the moment with all the financial stuff, coronavirus. There's always some random team that gets relegated. Like, who would have predicted Fylde to get relegated this season? And yeah, without further ado, let's stop waffling and get into the predictions. So we'll go for our bottom three first. We've both agreed on the bottom two. We've gone for Dover and Weymouth. Why have you gone for those two, Sam?
Well, I just saw obviously Dover's financial problems.
Yeah.
There's a lot of uncertainty whether they'd even be able to compete this year. It seems like they will be able to, but I just see them really struggling. I'm not sure what squad they sort of have, but I just see them really struggling.
They've had to lose their entire squad. And as Fleet fans, we know if you've got financial uncertainty, it's very hard to stay in the National League, which is a competitive league, and they have to get an entire new squad.
And Weymouth, I don't really know too much about them. They lost
their manager.
They came up in the playoffs last year, didn't they? And obviously, I saw we beat them in pre-season. So if we're beating someone, then I don't see them staying in the National League.
Yeah, they've done two promotions in a row, Weymouth. I think this one will just be a step too far. I believe the National League North is better than the National League South. And Weymouth, I think the National League South wasn't that strong last year. Weymouth have lost their manager. They've done two promotions in a row, and I think this will be the season they'll struggle. It reminds me a bit of Havant when they came up and they went straight back down. So I think that'll be Weymouth for me.
Yeah.
We've disagreed on the last relegation spot. There's only three because of Macclesfield, unfortunately, going out of business. I went for Wealdstone, and you've gone for Altrincham.
Yeah. Again, I don't really know too much about Altrincham. They went up in the playoffs.
They went up through the playoffs as well. I think they finished fifth or sixth.
So yeah, purely based on I don't really know too much about them, and I think the other teams that have gone up, I think they'll do a little bit better than Altrincham, and I don't see anybody else going down apart from them really.
Yeah, I agree. I was in a toss up between Wealdstone and Altrincham. I think I did have Altrincham in that last relegation spot, but I switched it to Wealdstone because they basically released this sort of tweet basically saying we probably won't have players being like we're going to let some players go at the end of this month because of being paid. I don't know if that's going to change because of the government support package, but it doesn't read good signs for me. And I think just for that, I think I'll go Wealdstone in that relegation spot instead of Altrincham. And then we'll go through our next 20 to 16th. So you've got Aldershot quite low with the signings they've made. Woking, Maidenhead, Kings Lynn, and Chesterfield. Talk us through those five.
Just because Aldershot have struggled the last few years. So although I saw that they signed Ross McCormack, I think that's his name, isn't it? Yeah. Obviously a really good signing, but I don't really see them doing very well this season. Woking again, I think they started last season really well.
Syndrome.
Yeah, and now I think they'll sort of drop off a little bit. Maidenhead are sort of always in and around there. I don't think they'll go down again. I think that they're that sort of team that just every year, you're fighting relegation, but they stay up. Kings Lynn, again, if I'm being honest, I don't really think any of the sides that have come up are going to be in the top half of the table. I think they're all going to be, in that sort of part of the table. And Chesterfield, again, I think they're struggling a little bit. I think when they first came down to this league, I thought everybody sort of thought they'd go straight back up. But, the past few years, they've really been struggling. I think they'll struggle again, but I think they'll stay up.
Yeah, so for my 20th, I've got Maidenhead. Agree with you. Alan Devonshire always seems to... He's actually made some good signings. They're probably very, very lucky to be still in the National League. But they're still there, and Alan Devonshire will probably keep them up by the skin of their teeth, which he usually does. Play some not the most attractive football, but he'll keep them up. Altrincham, spoke about them before. I think they'll just stay up. Barnet for me is one that I think they'll massively drop off. They brought in a manager who got sacked by Hereford. They lost a lot of their.
Okay.
They've still got some decent players in like Scott Loach, Wes Fongu, but they've lost a lot of their squad. And I just think this is going to be a season. Barnet is not a well-run club, and I think this will be the season they massively drop off. I don't think they get relegated because, as you said, the 4 teams that come up don't look great, and there's still 3 relegation spots. But I think they'll massively drop off this season. Again, Woking, I agree with you. Second season syndrome. I think the only reason they were quite high up last season, but probably only due to their start. I didn't really rate them. I don't think they've got enough goals. I think Dave Tarpey hasn't been the same since he went to Barnet and got injured. So I think he will. Yeah, I think Woking will struggle. So I've got Sutton in 16th. I think Matt Gray, very organised side. Don't think they'll go down, but I just don't think there's enough quality in there. I think Harry Buterman and Omar Bogle are massive for them. And if they don't fire, then they could struggle. But I think they'll be okay. They're a decent side.
So 15th, I've gone with Wildstone. Quite maybe a surprising pick that they're the highest of the 4. I just I have a good feeling about Wildstone. They did quite well in the South last year.
Yeah.
So I just have a really good feeling that they're going to do well. 15th isn't amazing, but I'm sure Wildstone fans would take that. 14th, I've put Sutton. Like you, I think Sutton will do okay. It's nothing special. I think towards the end of last season they started to gather a bit of momentum, a bit of form where they looked, as if they might be one of the sides that got into that relegation battle.
They really struggled in the relegation battle, weren't they?
Yeah, definitely. 13th, I've actually gone with Boreham Wood. I've seen where you've actually put them, and maybe a bit of a contrast there. I just think I like Boreham Wood. I like what they're doing. They've made a few decent signings. They brought Ashmore in, obviously on a permanent deal. I just see a mid-table finish for them. I don't see them pushing for the playoffs like that they did last year. I just put them there. 12th, Eastleigh. Again, last season they did all right. Again, it's just mid-table. I think they're still struggling from losing Paul McCullen, and they lost Mark Yates as well.
Yeah,
So I think and then 11th, I've gone with Hartlepool. Again, I think they're just one of these teams that are they've come down and they're sort of stuck in this league now. I think it might be a bit tight, that top, whereas last season it was quite tight, that top 7. I think it's going to be tight again. But I think Hartlepool are just going to miss out and finish 11th.
Yeah. In 15th, I've got Aldershot. I agree with you. I don't think they'll do as badly as 20th, but again, I think when we spoke to Danny Seal, he knows they need a goal scorer. And I don't think they've signed Ross McCormack, but I'd rather have Lee Martin, to be honest. Lee Martin's been playing in League 2 consistently for Exeter. Ross McCormack's been injured for 3 years. I know he's 34 now. He's got injury problem. He's probably lost some pace. And they're probably relying on him to score some goals. And I don't think there's enough goals in that team for them to really, because there's definitely quality. I think they'll miss Dean Rance as well. We certainly did, losing that sort of rock that just breaks stuff down. So I think they can't. I don't think they've got the quality to make a playoff push. Agree with you on sort of Kings Lynn. I think again we don't know too much about them, but what we do know is Adam Marriott. If he starts scoring, then they'll easily stay up because he got a goal scorer. They'll be fine. Eastleigh again. Agree with you. I think they'll miss McCullum and Yates. That sort of those goals. They kind of struggled last season. If the season went on, they could have maybe snuck into the relegation zone in the end because they were really on a bad run of form. Ben Strevens, a little bit of pressure on him because he got the playoffs, and now the last season he didn't do too well. So I think again, I don't think Eastleigh don't really tend to do anything that spectacular. So again, playoffs for them. Chesterfield, I think a little bit higher than what you said, but kind of agree with you. I think John Pemberton is actually quite a good manager, and they're starting to get their sort of ownership stuff sorted out. I think the trust own them now instead of the owner, but I don't think they've got the sort of the finances now to really push. But their side is pretty decent, and they shouldn't have been. Their side on paper shouldn't be where it has been the last couple of years, and they've got the quality to be mid-table. I don't think they'll probably just miss out on a push. I've got Halifax in 11th. You've got them quite high. I think Pete Wilder's a good manager, but again, I think they don't have the quality. I think last season we saw that they were kind of falling off a bit of a cliff towards the end of the season. They didn't play too well in the playoffs. They didn't play too well at the end of the season. And I think this season they'll do okay, but I don't think they'll be in the playoffs again.
Right. So, in 10th, I've gone with Dagenham. Obviously, Darryl McMahon, the manager, obviously, he seems to be bringing in a bit like the squad we sort of had when he was.
Yeah.
He was obviously brought quite a lot of the ex-fleet. You know, they might be aging a little bit, some of them. I know, you know, Weston was really good last season for us when we had him. But I don't think they'll get playoffs this season. I think, again, they'll be in and around the scrap, but I think 10th is probably the sort of position that I think they'll finish. 9th, I've gone with Barnet, a bit higher than you. You know, obviously they just about got into the playoffs on points per game last season. Again, I think they'll finish, you know, just below the playoffs. But again, I thought when we played them at their ground, I thought they played us off the park that day. So
yeah, there's definitely quality there.
Yeah, and then in 8th, I've gone with Stockport, who, again, I think they came to our ground. They did a solid job. And then they had a decent defence. They scored a goal. You know, that they held us out. They look a decent side. Yeah, I think they'll finish 8th.
Yeah, I think the only thing with Stockport is maybe they've signed too many players.
Right. Okay.
They've certainly got that core there. But they just missed out last season due to PPG, but maybe they signed too many players. Yeah, this is where we really start to disagree on a lot of things. You've got Yeovil quite highly. I've got Yeovil in 10th.
Right,
I think they've got a bit of a playoff hangover. I think there's certainly quality there, but I think they'll just miss out. I think Darren Sartley is a good manager, but I think the playoffs in the National League are so competitive. When you've got I've got think sides like Wrexham, Solihull, Torquay going again. So I think sides will miss out like Yeovil, and I think it's very difficult to go again in the playoffs and keep going. 9th, I've got Bromley. I know you've got them in the playoffs. Again, they've certainly got the quality there, but I just think the way they fell off last season was just was a bit worrying, and they've lost kind of their squad players. They let people like Meki go, and that worried me. That concerned me a little bit. But 9th, I think that'll be okay for them, but I think they'll just miss out on the playoffs. 8th, I've got Hartlepool. Agree with you. Dave Challoner is a good manager, but I think the pressure's going to be so hard on them. Their transfer fund from the fans, they've raised a lot of money. The pressure's going to be on to get them up this season. They've been down here. They haven't really done a lot when they've been down here. Again, even when he did start to get into form, he lost to Ebbsfleet, which we know about well. Yeah, so that's my 8 for Hartlepool. We'll go through this one by one now. So who have you got in 7th?
I've gone with Solihull. Of course, they didn't do too well last year. But this year, I think that the squad they have, they really underperformed last season. I think if they all get firing, they could really, you know, obviously the season before that, you know, they really had a decent chance to go up. They really pushed Leyton Orient that year. So I think 7th, I think they'll get back into the playoffs. Yeah, I'll put them in 7th, yeah.
I've gone for Wrexham in 7th. I think, again, they shouldn't have been down there last season. Keats, the manager, is a good manager. He knows Wrexham well. He got results out of them at the end of the season. They've signed some good players. They've got the takeover coming in. It looks a lot more promising for Wrexham. I don't think the takeover is going to immediately make results, but if they need to make signings in January, December, they'll make them because they will have the money now instead of relying on the trust. And Dean Keats is a better manager than they had last season. And yeah, I think they'll do okay. In 6th, I've got Solihull. I agree with you. I think it's really important that you're a full-time side this season with Corona basically, with financial stuff. And I don't think Solihull have any financial worries because they're minted, I think. So I agree with you on Solihull. Paul McCullum is one of the best strikers in the league. And I think if you've got one of them, then you should get in the playoffs. Who have you got in 6th?
I've gone with Bromley. Now, I know you were just speaking about the squad
Yeah,
players, and that's really important, the squad players this year, but especially because the league's starting a bit later, the fixtures are going to be a
they're
bit
so
more
congested. Yeah,
congested. So it
yeah.
might be a Saturday, Tuesday, and that could be really important with the squad players. So I wasn't aware that Bromley got rid of too many players, but I still think they'll do pretty well. I
The
like,
core they've got there is really good. Cheeky, Bush,
yeah, I really like
Holton.
Cheek. I think Cheek could easily go out and score, 20, 25 goals in a season if he's firing. And if you've got that, and then you've got a decent defence behind him, they're going to do well. They're going to win games, and I think they'll
Yeah,
finish in sixth.
yeah. I think they were very
Um,
unlucky last season with injuries, but we've both agreed on fifth actually. We've both
okay.
gone for Torquay. Um,
Yes.
when they came to Ebbsfleet, I was really surprised that they sort of fell off a cliff. I thought they would get playoffs. I think Gareth Johnson, in terms of names, is one of the best managers in the league. He's really experienced. The only thing for Torquay that is going to worry me is they don't have Jamie Reid. They don't have the goals of him, but I think they've made some decent signings. Torquay are a good club. They're well run. Gareth Johnson is a very experienced manager. I think he understood the league last season. He's probably learned from his mistakes, and this season they'll get past.
Yeah, I like Torquay. I think when they came to us, that was probably one of the games, as well as Barrow, that they came to our ground and we just didn't really stand a chance against them. Just they were proper good. You said that, like you said, they lost Jamie Reid, so maybe that might have a little impact on them, but I still think they'll get playoffs. I think maybe this, you spoke about the playoffs. We'll obviously speak about it a bit more. Maybe it could be Torquay's year. I'm not sure, but yeah, I'll put them in fifth.
You've got Halifax in fourth.
Yes, I actually think Halifax will do well this season. We saw
Steve Martin's a
last
good
year.
manager.
We saw last year how they started off very well, um, and then they sort of fell off towards the end. I thought that last game, that when they played against Ebbsfleet, I thought they were terrible. Really, I didn't really think they really caused us too many problems. But I think they'll finish fourth. I think they'll be the sort of shock ones this season. You don't really expect them to be up there, but I do think they will be up there. So yeah, I'll put them in fourth.
I've got Dagenham in fourth. I know you put them outside the playoffs, but I've got to back Darren McMahon. I think he's signed his core. I think he's got Dean Rance, he's got Kenny Clark, he's got Sam Deering, he's Miles Weston.
Mm,
Maybe it's me being nostalgic seeing the Ebbsfleet players,
yeah,
but
yeah.
those players for me, he knows them well. I think he's got a decent striker in as well. They've spent a decent amount of money. Dagenham again, I think similar to sort of Solihull and Wrexham, underperformed massively last season under Peter Taylor. They've had the funds. They've gone out. They've signed some decent players. So I think this will be the season that Darrell's going to get it right. He's had a long pre-season with them, and I think he'll do well with Dagenham. He obviously came in January, so he knows the club now. He's been able to make his signings. He done okay when they came in, got a few results. So yeah, I think I'll go fourth. In third, I've got Boreham Wood. I know you've got them quite low. I think, but I think Lou Garrard. I think this is really important. They've got to keep hold of Kabango Chishmanga. I think that's how you say it.
Yes, yes.
They've signed Ashmore. They've got a solid side. I think the only reason why they sort of when they won the they lost in the player final and then fell off a cliff is because they lost a lot of their players. They've kept the best players in their team. And the back end of last season, they were pushing for it. We spoke to Luke Garrard. Again, probably one of the best managers and one of the best young managers out
Yeah.
there. And I think he'll get them in third. And it's just the bloody thing. They need to win these playoffs. They've been on it 2 or 3 times, 3 or 4 times now. They just need to get a bit of luck in them.
Yeah.
You've got Wrexham in third.
Yeah. I mean, they're one of the sides that I think you always put in and around the playoffs. I don't think they'll win the league this year. I think maybe a few Wrexham fans will believe they will win the league this year. I don't think they'll win the league this year. Again, it's one of those things that they're really stuck here.
Maybe
You
not with
know,
the Hollywood stars.
yeah, maybe not. Yeah, they're always a good side, and I think one thing about them is their ground is sort of a fortress to them. You know, it's not many teams go there and get 3 points, and I think that is so important. Their away form is really poor. I think that's something that they're definitely going to have to fix up on, because their away form is really, really poor. I mean, I can remember that game that we played against them that actually put them in bottom. When we beat them, and you're just thinking, that's been their problem for the last few years. If you win all your games at home but you don't win any away, you're going to end up finishing in around that, between 7th and 10th. But I think if they win they win the majority of their home games, they win quite a few away games, and you put them right up there, and I put them in third.
Maybe that's something we haven't touched on, but I don't think home advantage is going to have a huge effect this season. I know Wrexham have done really well there. But especially with the big clubs, if they haven't got their big fans there, teams like Boreham Wood, Sutton, Kings Lynn, it's probably better for them, because they're not going to have, even when Stockport go away, they bring their huge away fans. It's going to back them. I don't know how that affects them, but in second I've got Stockport. I think they've had a great window. They've signed the 2 Jennings brothers. Connor Jennings probably shouldn't be playing in non-league. He's only I think a year ago now, or 2 years ago, that he had an absolute man of the match performance in the League 2 player final. He smashed up League 2. He didn't play as much in League 1, but I think he's more than capable of smashing up the National League. He's a really good player. James Jennings, his brother, is a really solid left back. I thought they were really solid last season. Liam Hogan, their captain. Again, Stockport have had investment as well, so real big club, and I think that they'll just miss out on the title to a team we'll speak about later. You've got
I've got Yeovil. Yeah, I've got Yeovil. Again, I like Yeovil. I think they've got a decent squad about them. I think last season, again, they did okay, but I think this season, they'll really push on, and I think it shows with who we've got, top, that the league, these, in my opinion, who I've got top and Yeovil are the 2 teams that have sort of come in, and I think they're the ones that will most probably go up this season.
Yeah, and we've both agreed, and I think this will be the favourites for the league. I think massive club, Notts County. I think Neil Ardley, you could tell they had a bad start, I think, and then once they got into form, they were ridiculous. I think the main thing with Notts County, which I think will send them up, is their attack. It's amazing. Wootton, Enzo Borgwin, I think his name is, Carl Roberts. It's really stacked with some real great players going forward, and they've still got that experience of people like Jim O'Brien. So I think they'll get it done. I think they really need to get it done. Again, solid ownership in Notts County. I think they haven't really got any worries about financial stuff during Corona. They didn't play too well in the FA Trophy or the playoffs, but I think most teams that lose in the playoff final go again. I'll give the example of Tranmere, lost to Forest Green, and then went again, and then beat Boreham Wood in their playoff final. So I think Notts County are going to go again and win the league.
Yeah. I think Notts County are just a side that, they've been sort of sucked into this league. They're not a club that deserves to be in this league. They're a club that should be, fighting at the very top. You see that by their stadium. Unfortunately, we never got to go there because of all the coronavirus and everything. But that was just the one stadium last year that I really wanted to go to. You don't see stadiums like that around. Of course, I know that Wrexham have got a great stadium, and Stockport have, but I think that stadium just tops it all off. Like you said, they've got some really good players there. And this season, I actually see them running away with the league. I'd see them winning it by about 10 points, in my opinion. I think they'll win it.
For argument's sake, who's winning the playoffs for you in your playoffs?
I've had quite a lot of thinking about this while we've been doing this, and my head keeps changing. Who I think's going to go. I'm actually going to say this year's going to be the year for Wrexham. Wrexham are finally going to get out of the National League this year. They're going to win the playoffs. I think they'll win it on penalties as well. And I'll say they'll win it on penalties against Yeovil in the final.
Oh, I'm going to go for Boreham Wood. I know Wrexham have had a lot of troubles in the playoffs, but I think Boreham Wood, this could be the year of Boreham Wood. I think they'll finally get their luck in the playoffs and win them. And again, I said, if they've got people like Shamanga banging in goals, Ashmore in goal, a solid side that's been together for a long while now, I think they'll get it done. So, yeah, those are our National League predictions. I'm sure you're going to let us know that we're all idiots in the comments below because we haven't put Stockport in the playoffs, we haven't put Barney on 18th or something. But let us know our predictions. I'm sure we'll watch these later in the year and bloody think we are absolute tools.
Yeah.
But yeah, leave a like on the video. Don't hate us too much. But yeah, thanks for watching and see you later.